Hello and welcome back to the Real Music Talks. Today's guest is Twin Skeletons, a band that I played with the other day at the Victoria in Swindon, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm really looking forward to today. How you guys doing?
All
Yeah,
good.
great, thanks.
Excellent.
So for people that are listening that don't know you, how would you describe yourselves as a band?
We are a four-piece alternative rock band, but we kind of label it as skeleton rock based on the name, and it's kind of unique. But yeah, we kind of take influences from Paramore, 𝕍𝖊𝖊𝖓, Muse, 𝕼𝖚𝖊𝖊𝖓, try and mix some sort of heavy riffs with female vocals and stuff.
Can definitely hear that a lot in the music. I mean, I loved all the riffs and everything. So talk me through your story a little bit. You know, how did you guys meet and how did you guys form as a band?
Yes, I remember Phoebe put a post up on the Facebook page for the Music Society at the uni that we go to.
This is Phoebe, by the way.
This is Phoebe.
I'm the female.
The female.
And she basically just said, "Oh, me and my brother are looking for a drummer and a bassist to join our band. We like Bring Me the Horizon, 𝕿𝖍𝖊𝖊𝖓, probably 𝕿𝖍𝖊𝖊𝖓𝖓 said as well, I reckon."
Yeah.
And yeah, me and Fred luckily were the only two people that replied to it. So that worked quite well.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, from there we just got together for a practice, learned a few songs, and it just, yeah, it clicked straight away.
So what university do you guys go to? Are you doing like a music course or is it completely irrelevant to music?
Completely irrelevant.
We're quite nerdy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you guess we study?
It could be anything, to be honest with you. Maths or something like that, maybe economics.
Yeah, I do maths.
Fred's
There we go.
Yeah.
No, we're all science people because we all go to uni of Bath. Well, now some of us have left, but yeah, we all do like science subjects. No one's done music at all. Yeah.
So you guys got together. How did you start writing music? Did you get a few practices in? You know, talk me through like a little bit of that journey, I guess.
Yeah. We were playing quite a few gigs, just doing covers for a few months, and then we thought, okay, this is working really well. Why don't we try and write some of our own stuff? And me and James had written a few songs before in the past, so it felt quite natural to just start writing.
I think 𝕿𝖍𝖊𝖊𝖓 was it the first song?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I know we'll probably come on to that in a bit, but yeah, I think James had a little demo put together. It's like, check this out, and we all just loved it straight away, and started building it up from there.
It's interesting that you mentioned that you did covers first, because like some bands just like shy away from that. But I think especially like when you're first starting to play together, it's a good way to kind of gel as a band and like really get to know, like everyone's got their own little sort of things that they like to add in and stuff like that, you know, so it just gives you guys a better kind of bond, and then that gives you a good foundation to when you start writing your own music, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And the sort of the music scene that we started in was mainly bands just doing covers, because we sort of started doing these music society nights at a place called 𝕿𝖊𝖊𝖓 in Bath, and like the turnout to them are some of the best turnouts we've seen, because you just get all the students come down, but there's kind of like there's a bit of like a expectation to do big covers of like popular songs, because that's what everyone wants to hear there. So you get a good reaction by, you know, playing Muse and 𝕿𝖊𝖊𝖓.
Yeah, makes sense. Or in my case, it's like Oasis and stuff like that, or Mr. Brightside. That always goes down a treat, but you hate playing it as a musician because you've heard it so many bloody times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Brian's song was the popular one, wasn't it?
Oh
Yeah.
you love that one, didn't
Yeah, that was one that would get played several times in one night.
Yeah.
you? That and Smile by
Yeah.
𝕿𝖊𝖊𝖓.
Oh, Smile.
Brainstorm again.
So to add a bit more context, I guess, do you want to talk through your own like musical like journey, maybe like individually? So like how you first got into music, what instrument you took up, like how you develop your skill set.
Oh, yeah, that's sure. Yeah, I think when I was like 10 or something, I decided, I wanted to learn drums, and then
over the years and stuff, I practiced that and joined a few little kind of bands. I think I was part of this, like, it was almost like a little group where loads of people would get together and we would just join little bands and just kind of play covers and stuff. But through that I learned guitar, and then eventually learned bass, and I was like, well, bass is pretty cool. And then yeah, and then joined a few little bands here and there, but nothing much, and then properly joined this group when I went to uni.
Will I go next?
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah.
So I'm the guitarist. I can only play guitar, and I sort of picked it up when I was maybe I got bought one when I was 8, because I'm left-handed, so it had to be bought for me to be able to play it. But because I couldn't just play my dad's, but I just didn't really have that much interest. And I'd say like 14, I saw a Les Paul on eBay for some reason. But it was like an epiphones one, and it was 140 quid, and I thought, all right, it's time to get back into music. And then I just started doing 𝕿𝖍𝖊𝖎 stuff because it's quite simple and quite satisfying because it's easy to get right. And then I found Muse, and their stuff is like the next step up from 𝕿𝖍𝖊𝖎, because it's like a bit more complicated. But again, you don't need to be like a maestro to be able to play Muse songs. So, but you also feel like a legend playing them. So I started doing that, and then doing some covers, and pretty much I've got a YouTube channel where I basically cover Muse songs, or I did. I sort of tried to branch out a bit more now, but yeah, that's kind of my history of music.
So for me, I think I started playing drums when I was 7. So that's quite a long time, isn't it? Yeah, it was a bit on and off. So I just found drum lessons a bit boring, just playing like the same music from the book like every time and doing rudiments. But I think in 2015 I started a band back home with some mates, and yeah, we were just doing covers, playing at pubs and stuff. We were only like 16, 17, and because people would say, oh, that's cute, you're in a band, and then they'd see us and they're like, oh, you're like just as good as the other people that play here. So yeah, so we're playing like 2-hour sets, which looking back, I don't know how I did that, playing like 28 odd songs I think it was we normally played. So yeah, did that until about maybe 2019. We started moving towards original stuff. That band's called 𝕍𝖐𝖊𝖊𝖓. So we've got stuff out on Spotify, and then met these guys 2 years ago, and then yeah, this has been all I've needed really. This is what I've been waiting for.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, your turn, Phoebe. Right, top that.
Yeah. Well, I actually had barely any interest in music until I think I was 15, and then yeah, because James and my dad would always do little gigs down in the kitchen. My dad would play bass and James would play guitar, and they'd just do every Muse song ever. And then my dad was like, oh, Phoebe, why don't you join us, we'll get you a mic. So he bought me a little microphone set, and I started singing with them. And I don't know why my dad convinced me to carry on, because it wasn't great, but yeah. And then yeah, definitely Muse were the first band I ever got into, and then from there I found loads of other bands, and now I love it.
And you're now a guitarist as well.
Oh yeah, I play guitar. Yeah.
So there is like some sort of variety within your journey. It's not all the same thing, although Muse is a bit of a common theme, I guess. So when you first came together, how did you go about crafting your sound, coming from the different backgrounds that you've had?
That's
I just kind of did it.
But
yeah,
I actually watched because sometimes in practice, just to sort of see how we sounded, I would take a video on my phone, and I actually saw the video from, I think it was our first practice the other day, and I think we kind of knew what direction we were going in straight away, because I think we started with Future Proof by Nothing But Thieves, Come On Over by Royal Blood or Little Monster, and Hysteria by Muse. And none of us had met each other before. We just walked into the practice room and just like snapped these out.
I met you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I knew Phoebe for 18 years before that, but yeah, like that. Those songs just work so well. So it's kind of clear we were going to go in that sort of direction of riff-based songs, but with like big choruses. You know, we all like heavy music as well, I would say. So we try and implement that where we can without going over the top.
That makes sense. So still like heavy but accessible, I guess. So you had that first demo you mentioned earlier. So talk me through, you know, the process from there onwards in terms of writing music, getting a set together, and then getting out and gigging.
I think that first demo was about a minute long. I think it was just a sort of intro, verse, chorus. To be fair, I think the intro didn't really change much.
No.
And yeah, most of the intro and the verse. The chorus was much more sort of continuous, whereas we added in those pauses, and that just like transformed it completely. And then I think one of the later demos of 𝕿𝖍𝖊𝖊, like we were saying, we just had, you know, we like to throw in some heavier sides of things, but we just went too far with it, and it was just like the biggest metal breakdown. It just did not fit whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then it was like we just get carried away, and then we thought, actually maybe we should dial it back a little bit.
Yeah,
it was like a nice poppy chorus into like the genty kind of
breakdown.
And I was just like, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe it's a little bit out of touch.
Yeah, but we just wrote the song from playing together and practicing it together, and that's probably why we got a bit too carried away at times. But that's how we ended up writing it, was just literally just playing it and adding stuff. What are you going to say, James?
Well, it's like I feel like because we kind of messed around with that like sort of metal breakdown, you sort of realize that's a bit too far, but then we were like, we still actually want a heavy bit in the middle, so we kind of found a middle ground, which was not stupid, like in drop B, but also still heavy, and knew that we could get some mosh pits for it.
I think that's a good way to come up with ideas, to be honest. You know, you take like the most ridiculous version of this. So if you're trying to work out a bridge or something, say, you could try like 5 different ideas, but like the most ridiculous versions of those ideas, and then you're like, okay, now I find like the one that fits the best, and then it's like you can fit it into the rest of the song and make it sort of seamless. So yeah, like I said, you got that first demo. How did you go about creating that, turning it into more like a set, you know, like a full list of songs, and then going out to gig?
So we did one gig last year, didn't we? Where we had that 𝕿𝖍𝖊𝖊, which we sort of implemented an early version, so it didn't sound anything like it does now because it was incomplete. But we sort of put that in a set full of covers. But then we also had this other riff we'd been jamming. But that was it. It was literally a riff, and we had nothing else. And what we're quite bad at as a band is saying we need to like write something and then having fun playing covers and just spending our practices doing them instead. But so we had this riff, and would play it a few times at a couple gigs. But I think we so we met our producer Kai at a gig which I wasn't actually at, so I'll let someone else finish that bit of the story. But from there, he kind of said we should do an EP or something, or at least a collection of songs to record with him. And then that kind of made us go, okay, so let's say that's 4 or 5 songs we need to, and we want to get these done in the early part of next year. So that's kind of a timeline where we need to write other stuff. And everyone always has ideas that they just don't share. And then, so for example, Joe had this like really cool 6/8 song, which he had sort of like built up on Logic and then not really put into the group. And then he just put it in one day, and we were like, what? This is so good. So just stuff like that. And then we just sort of like polished off the rest of the ideas into songs.
That makes sense. And then how did you go about translating that to live, I guess? So you got an EP, and then it was like, okay, you're going to play some shows. What did you do there? How did you approach like the live shows?
I think the songs came one at a time, didn't they?
Yeah.
So I think we sort of gradually added them. So yeah, we're currently playing all 4 of them, and also one of Phoebe and James's old songs. So yeah.
But it was it was pretty bare bones at the beginning. Like we just kind of played because we wanted to add a lot of different stuff to the songs and not just guitars and some backing vocals and so on. And it was pretty bare bones when we played at first, and it didn't sound that great either. It sounded quite empty. So we started trying to, once we got it like properly recorded, we started introducing the recording on Joe's pad to help us play it live, really, and it sounded so much better now this time around.
Yeah, since we started the 𝕿𝖍𝖊𝖊𝖓 tour, we've added those backing tracks, and it's just, yeah, it sounded much more full.
How do you implement that live? Because I did notice that with the sample pad and stuff. Is it like those backing tracks are pre-recorded and then you have to play along to that, like for a click or something like that?
Yeah, so it's basically, so it's really lucky our producer 𝕿𝖍𝖊𝖊𝖓 helped us out with that. So he's basically, you know, stripped away everything else from the song and just taken all the extra bits. And he sent us that and, you know, balanced it all out, and also a click track to go with it. So I've got the click and the track going through my ears, and then everyone basically just plays along to me. Obviously, at some point, we'd like everyone to be able to hear it because it'd be a little bit easier. Because there's still times where I've got to keep time even if I'm not playing. But it's more than good enough at the moment. But yeah, that's the system we've got.
Yeah, I guess that presents challenges in itself, especially if everyone's playing to that click and stuff. Have you had any specific gigs where that's been a bit of a challenge, having that set up?
I've struggled to hear a lot of the time, because there's something wrong with my pad at the moment, which means that like the left ear is really quiet, so I'm heavily relying on the right ear. And there's some songs where, say, there's lots of synths going on and stuff, the click almost just gets drowned out. So I've tried to sort of make it work, but there have been a couple of times where I'm just sort of guessing, and luckily it's been fine. But it's normally just for like maybe 20-30 seconds in total. But luckily sometimes I can still hear the track, which I can keep in time with. But it's a bit scary when you don't know what's going on.
I guess the advantage is at least everyone else is playing to you, right? So if you go slightly off, then everyone else is still in time with you, as long as you find your feet again.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
it is quite nerve-wracking. That was the thing I was probably most worried about when we started this tour, is just getting used to that, because in the past I've not really done full backing tracks. I've done, you know, like just triggering like random samples, whether it's like sub drops or just, you know, small synth parts. But yeah, you know, running to a full backing track, obviously, you know, there's not much room for error, because that track's going to keep going if you stop. So
yeah, it definitely takes some getting used to. But I think on this tour so far, like every gig we've played, they consecutively sort of get better, because I think we're all getting used to playing with this new live setup.
Yeah, it just comes down to the confidence of the new setup, really.
That makes sense. I want to talk a little bit about like the business side and the marketing and promotion that you do as well. How do you sort of manage that? Is there different people in the band doing different roles? Have you got sort of a manager that helps with that? What does that look like?
Yeah, so our producer 𝕿𝖍𝖊𝖊𝖓 is also our manager. So he has been like so much help with that side of things. Like he knows what we need to do, and then throughout the 5 of us, including 𝕿𝖍𝖊𝖊𝖓, we managed to like separate out all the jobs for all the socials pretty well. So everyone does a little bit, really.
It is a lot. There is a lot to do, really. But yeah, once you sort of split it out between you, it's not too bad. So
makes sense. So you just done this tour and everything. You got your EP. What is the future plan now? Maybe like short term and long term, if you have one.
well, we still got to finish this tour.
Yeah.
We've got 4 more dates to go. So we've got Southampton and Petersfield this weekend, and then we've also got Birmingham and London at the start of November. Then we can have a little break, and then we're planning on releasing our next single.
Is that something that you've recorded already, or yet to write, or?
Yeah, all recorded.
Yeah, so we recorded so we recorded 4 songs with 𝕿𝖊𝖊𝖐. So we're just going to sort of push them out one at a time. So yeah, the next one's going to be early December.
Yeah, keep everyone waiting.
Yeah.
Just in time for Christmas. It makes
Yeah.
sense, I think, these days to do that. You know, I think, you know, an early stage band recording an album doesn't really make sense. Like, people just listen to singles and EPs these days. I mean, rarely even EPs, to be honest. So splitting up the release like that, I think, is really good for like your fan base and your audience. And obviously, where you're an early stage sort of band, it's like finding those new fans that are going to like your music. And I think that's the best way to do it. I guess, have you thought about doing music videos and stuff with those?
Yeah, I think potentially for one song, but I mean, we sort of done these sort I guess TikTok's taken over at the minute. So we kind of done these band room videos where we're doing a playthrough of the song as a band, and then 𝕿𝖊𝖊𝖐 will shoot it and try and, you know, if you ever watch 𝕿𝖊𝖊𝖓𝖊, the drummer, his cameraman's a bit crazy, and 𝕿𝖊𝖊𝖐's sort of done a bit of that sort of style of shooting. And
It was like energizes it a bit.
yeah, it looks, and it makes it look a bit like a music video, but without all the cuts and the storyline, I guess. But I mean, it's cheap and you can split it up into loads of pieces of content.
That's a cool idea, and I think that makes sense. You've got all those different bits you can chop and change then. What challenges have you faced as a band? Like, what have been kind of the biggest obstacles that you've had to overcome so far? I mean, obviously you mentioned the live show, but has there been any band fallouts, anything like that?
We all get along, which helps. Even Phoebe and James as siblings, they're probably the easiest. So yeah, no, we haven't really had that many issues at all.
Yeah,
Like it's been very busy. Like leading up to 𝕿𝖊𝖊𝖐, and once the song was released with all the tour and everything, it's been a lot. So it's ramped up pretty quickly, and you know, the response has been really good. So we're just trying to keep the ball rolling.
yeah, I definitely think so. Before, when we were just doing a gig every maybe 2 months or something, that it was like I don't know, you didn't even consider the idea of doing a gig because it was so exciting. But I think you start to realize the struggle of trying to balance work with a gig, especially like weekday gigs. But I think we're kind of getting used to doing that now. You get a bit of a formula on how to do it.
That was going to be my next question. How do you manage like outside of band priorities? But yeah, it is tricky because you need to fund your passion. You know, you're not going to be making money from music for a while, so it's like you've got to balance those two things, and it can be tricky at times. We're actually nearly out of time. It's flown by. So yeah, thanks for coming on. The last thing I always ask everyone, is there anything else you'd like to leave the audience with as we close out? And obviously you can promote anything, you can talk about anything, you can say anything you want within reason.
I guess follow our Instagram.
Yeah.
We are 𝕿𝖊𝖊𝖐𝖊𝖐𝑠. Follow the link in our bio for any merch, tickets. You can still rewatch our BBC Radio 1 Future Flavour feature for the next few days.
Stream 𝕿𝖊𝖊𝖐.
Stream 𝕿𝖊𝖊𝖐. Keep screaming it.
Stream 𝕿𝖊𝖊𝖐, and depending on when this goes out, if you're about in Birmingham on Thursday the 2nd of November, get down and watch us supporting 𝕿𝖊𝖊𝖐, who's a great artist. And if you're in London on Tuesday the 7th of November, we'll be supporting this. She's like a massive guitar influencer called 𝕿𝖍𝖊𝖊𝖐, and she's got like a new band, and it's their first gig that we're supporting them on. So if anyone's in London wanting to watch that, definitely get down.
Nice one. No, that's exciting. I know who you're on about. But yeah, thanks guys. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you for
having
having
us.
us.
Nice one. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.
Bye.